Good evening once again and welcome to Kaiso Talk, our usual Wednesday evening program where we talk Kaiso. Yes, indeed. And of course, it's always very interesting when, the art form is discussed. And of course, it's Carnival in Trinidad and on the style of Carriacou. And of course, once you hear Carnival, then it's Bacchanal. Yeah, of course, together with the music and everything else. But that makes it very exciting. I guess maybe that's one of the reasons why we love Carnival so much, So yes, we're going to have quite an interesting discussion this evening. Val is with me as always, and I am very happy to welcome back to the program Dr. Josephine Torrell Taylor Brown. She's been on the program before. Shed some really, really great insights and information, and she's back this evening to chat some more with us. All right, so it's a good time to welcome them, and of course, we welcome all our viewers on GBN TV, our friends on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, and our listeners on K105 FM. Val, good evening and welcome again. How are you doing?
Good, Godfrey. Welcome to all the listeners in Grenada, Cairo, Timor, and all up the Windward Islands where this program is being. Always good to be here on GBN FM radio and television.
Yes, indeed. Dr. Taylor Brown, good evening and welcome back. It is such a pleasure to have you. We're honored to have you back.
Thank you, and it is always a pleasure to be here. It's always a pleasure to connect with our sister islands, our Caribbean neighbors. So thank you for having me again.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, we should be joined a little later by Luther, and Scholar should be joining us as well. So we're looking forward to that. But Val, let me start with you. It's Carnival in Trinidad. By the way, the extempo and freestyle was last night, right? I think it was
last night. Yes. Last night. So we had the winners last night.
Yeah, Brian London. Yes, I saw that.
He defended his crown. He is once again the extempo champion, defeating Winston Gypsy Peters.
Yes,
and so too Pretty also defended his freestyle crown.
Yes.
Defeating Nestor Boxhill, who is the son of the merchant.
Yeah. Actually, I was quite surprised to see him. I saw him in the preliminaries going up against Gypsy. And I was really, really pleased to see him,
It's good.
Yeah.
Such a young person, and Pretty, that they are making that transition from being soca artists and so on to doing extempo. So it's August well. You might see them singing Calypso next year also.
Right. Val, let me ask you this. I know you do write Calypso. You ever thought about doing a little extempo? Are you? Yeah.
No, I think that there is something with the extempo where I feel that sometimes more information don't necessarily make you a good extempo artist. You because on the spot you have to now be juggling information. What do I say? So sometimes less is better.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Yes, indeed. So, yes, Carnival is done. We've had the semi-final round of competition, and the finalists have been announced. And I've been following, and there's been little talk here and there, people, and of course, every year you would always find that there are some people who will not be satisfied because everyone wants to move on to the next round of competition. I mean, knowing well that not everybody can make it. But nevertheless, when people put effort into their work, they look forward to going all the way. And when it doesn't happen, I mean, there's the little ill feelings, so to speak, but eventually it dies down. So before we go to Dr. Taylor Brown, Val, what's your take on all that's been happening? We also saw the changing of the quotient in terms of the categories and the point standing. What kind of feedback have you been getting in Trinidad on that?
Well, clearly after the semi-final, you hear a lot of talk. But even before the semis, I think that people were very perturbed in terms of the lineup, the 40 that they were seeing going to Skinner Park. And of course, some names were left out, some names that people felt should have been there. But after all is said and done, I think that what became the greatest talking point is the standard of judging, the quality of judging, and maybe now the criteria. So the post the semi-final, a lot of information has come into the public domain, which we can look at, analyze, and make some kind of assessment of what is happening out there based on the results that we see for us. So that is the greatest thing, that the information is in the public domain. It is not hearsay. It is not gossip. It is there before us, and we can look at it, and based on the expertise that we have before us, and make some kind of precise examination of what we see before us. So I think that is the best thing.
Right. Yes, indeed. Dr. Brown, you are an authority on these matters, and we would like to get your take on all of this. First, I want to start with so we've seen a change in how the score sheets were laid out in terms of the points, how the points are allocated. In the Caribbean, we've been accustomed to lyrics, melody, rendition, originality, and presentation as the main categories, and of course under that the subcategories which the points will be allocated to. I think it has now changed. You have what? Music and
you have music, which is now broken down into let me give Dr. Brown the chance to answer. Right?
It's all right, Val. You can go ahead.
All right. So you'll come in and do the thing. So we have music, which is now broken down into melody, arrangement, and originality. Mm-hmm. Melody, arrangement, and originality. And you have lyric, which is now theme, composition, and originality. And then you have presentation, which is rendition, articulation, and originality. So as opposed to what you mentioned just now, Godfrey, that you had melody, lyric, originality, presentation,
rendition,
and originality. Now you have these three main categories with a breakdown of additional three segments that compose the criteria, and I think within it that there is a major error there. So, but I would pass that on to our authority on the panel this evening to further drill down and examine that.
Yeah.
That includes you, Val, in terms of authority. but thank you. Yes. So. What we are seeing on the score sheet is, as Val explained, three major categories and then a breakdown. But upon closer examination, those breakdowns are still lacking and leaves room for interpretation. What is the best thing is to have very clear criteria and definitions of criteria, meaning you must be able to explain what those musical elements are, so that there is no room for doubt, and then a rubric which accompanies that will help guide the adjudicator as to how should I score this. If you think that the melody is good, what specifically about the melody is good? You could probably look at the melodic contour, you can look at the tune, you can look at how it treats with the theme. Mm-hmm. Is this melody suited to the theme or the topic at hand, etc.? And if you're awarding marks, if that is a good melody, then it should fall within a certain category or bracket of marks. And if you find it's just all right, fair, satisfactory, then that is another bracket. So being specific, is what will help guide that adjudicator to be almost on target in terms of judging that calypso and awarding scores appropriately.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So when you basically, so what you're saying is that you would have fair, satisfactory, excellent, outstanding, excellent within the context of melody, so that one would know exactly, well, all right, I think that this melody, I've heard it before, it's not a bad melody, but it's fair, or it's satisfactory, but it is not outstanding or excellent, and then you would have the rubric that would guide you into how much points to be awarded, so that you would have maybe, all right, so if it's fair, so that maybe it's 15 points, and if it's satisfactory, maybe a 20, outstanding 25, excellent, you from 27 to 30, some kind of thing like that.
Correct.
That, yes, all right.
Yes. So that will help reduce the gap, that wide gap that we have noticed with our recent Calypso results, where you would probably have a judge giving 45 and another one probably giving 87 or something like that. That specific rubric and definitions of criteria can help bridge that gap, so that the scores should be closer. Everyone will not give the same score, obviously, but at least that gap should not be as wide as that.
Right. My major bone of contention when my first cursory glance at the score sheet was that I saw originality being placed in the three categories: in music, lyric, and presentation. And when you add that up, you get a sum of 25 points. So that in the I want to say old criteria, or the criteria last year, which was used for I'm sure for over a decade and more, right? Originality was 10 points. I think that everyone in the Calypso business, or who have sung Calypso, judges know exactly what originality is. But here you have originality moving from 10 points to being spread into the three categories, and it's now 25 points. And I felt that was clearly an error. So, Josephine, I'd like to hear your take on that.
Right. So I think the last time we were here, we discussed originality as well. And I think that originality can be across the board. Usually, when persons discuss originality, they think that it's an original piece of music, an original melody, or maybe an original rhythm or rhythm, as we like to say. But originality can go across the board. You can have original lyrics. You can have an original arrangement, original melody, etc. However, I take your point in terms of the weighting of the marks being distributed across the three when you look at the total. So it means 25% of the overall marks goes to originality. Now, it also depends on the goal of the association. And I think this is something I had discussed in St. Lucia when I had conducted training with their adjudicators and artists. If you notice that in society, the quality of your calypsos and whatever they produce is lacking in a certain area, to try to motivate or to influence improvement in that area, you will award scores accordingly. So if, let's say, you find lyrics to be poor, and you want your artists and your composers to come with better lyrics, to improve in that area, then you will increase the scoring for that. So I'm wondering now, is it that TUCO found that originality is lacking in these areas, that they decide to put originality across the board, and therefore it equals or equates to 25% of the overall marks? If then that is the goal, if that's the observation and that is the goal, then I can see that happening. However, there's so much more to Calypso. And I think the lyrics is one of the most important things where Calypso is concerned. If we go back to way back with the quote-unquote invention of Calypso and where it came from, lyrics is what carry the message. Lyrics is what people will log on to when they listen to a calypso. The melody is important as well, but we really would want to focus on what the calypsonian has to say, but also how it is put across. So the use of literary devices, the use of such as double entendre and metaphor and pun and so on, onomatopoeia, all those things are important in making a calypso interesting. And it carries, again, way back to when the calypso started with the chantwell. And again, it is the words, it is the lyrics that they use, and the way that they hid the message from the oppressors. It was a clever way of doing that. And I think that should carry a lot of mark, because it takes a certain amount of skill for you to cleverly pen a calypso using these literary devices. So in terms of the weighting of the marks, we will have to really look at that. So again, I'm saying, depending on the objective of the association and where we want to go with the development of the calypso, only then can I assess whether that was a move in a positive direction or not. So I'm not totally bashing it, but at the same time, I'm saying, we need to know the background to that move. Why did they actually do this?
Val, I agree with Dr. Taylor Brown in one sense, and Scholar has joined us, and we would get his perspective just now. But for example, under music, which carries a total of 35 points, originality there, which amounts to 10 points, speaks to unique arrangements focusing on your own perspectives, innovation in composition of the song, and use of rhythm in music. And that's originality, where music is concerned. Now, under lyrics, which carries a total of 40 points, originality also carries 10 there, and it speaks to words and thought created by the author, and not outright copy of existing work. And I like the word outright there, because it tells me you could take a look at thing, but not too much, and finally, on the presentation, which carries a total of 25, originality speaks to making audience see familiar topic in a new light, demonstration of song through stage presence, interaction of singer with audience using effective communication mechanism that may enhance or complement the performance. And there it carries a total of 5 points, making up, given originality, the 25 points. Scholar, I want to bring you in here. I don't know if you were listening before you joined to Val and Dr. Taylor Brown's perspective. But the changing of the scores and criteria for the Calypso in Trinidad, music, lyrics, and presentation. I know you follow very well. What's your perspective on this?
All right, well, thank you very much, Godfrey, and good night to Dr. Brown and my good pal Val. It's a pleasure to be here. I have not followed the conversation whatsoever. I've just come according to Gary, hot and sweaty. so I've just arrived. So I really don't know what it is that you have said from what you have not said. But in terms of the criteria and the change, I've noticed a change in the criteria, because what we have and probably what it had before, you had this lyrics, melody, presentation, originality, and rendition. Mm-hmm. All right. Now I've seen it, and funny enough, I saw this when it was somebody posted it on Facebook, showing Chucky's scholarship. So I was taken aback that was that was the route. The truth is that, Godfrey, it doesn't really matter how the schools are broken down and what you have for which. It really doesn't matter one way or the other. And what has to happen is that judges have to be trained, that Calypsonians must know beforehand what it is the criteria is, and judges must be trained to adjudicate using the criteria. All right. And when I look, for example, at Chucky's score sheet, as a Calypsonian of many years myself, I just couldn't understand it because I know the song. All right. So there is, I mean, when I look at some, it just seemed and it appeared as if the judges were on different wavelengths, right? When somebody would score 93 and the next person would score 53, a difference of 40, it speaks to either there is no commonality in terms of understanding of the score sheet, of what they're supposed to be doing, or it's just outright malice and that's how I view it, right? To me, I do not think, and I'll say this straight off, I do not think, because some people may feel that it's judges who just don't know what they're doing. There's that, because judges usually, the training and so on, and getting judges to be on the mark, especially in Grenada, the training regime that they go through, I don't think it's rigorous enough. So sometimes you can level that at judges. But when you score people 53 and 57 and so on, I mean, I think that you know what you're doing. I think that they knew what they were doing.
So like we say in Grenada, they thief.
That's my honest opinion, you know. And the truth is that I always say this, Godfrey, that when people sit to adjudicate, it's like they do not understand that Calypso is ancestral music. That is one music that you don't mess with, you know. And do not bring your biases and straight out, because this is music that came from the ancestral realm, right? This is slavery music, you know. This is music that slaves came from slavery and moved up and so on. So the ancestors are watching this, you know. So when you see Costa to take people for playing this fool with the ancestral thing, and people say, well, oh, what course, you take people for that. You have to be very, very careful. I always say to people who judge, be very, very, very careful. You come to this thing, if you don't know, you make a mistake, or you're just ignorant, fine. I think the ancestors could live with that. But when you come purposefully to make foolishness, nah, the ancestors can be happy with you.
Dr. Brown, of Valia, you...
Just before, a number of things to say, but I just want to, based on what you're saying, you know, just to pay a closer look at the scores, right? With the three judges, especially with just the music category, right? And you see that they basically started off close in terms of just marking music, so that one judge had music as 24, another 24, 129, you know, another 29, and 131. So that I'm saying, if you're looking at music alone, in terms of the starting point, they were close, you know, right, between the lowest mark, let's say 7 and 5, right? But when you go down the road to lyric and presentation, there is where the gap widens, you know? So that in terms of hearing the music, whatever, they mark very closely. There's only a 7-point difference. But between lyric and melody, lyric and presentation, the gap definitely widens. And you end up with a disparity of, let's say, the lowest being 53 marks and the the highest being 90 something. So that there is something inside of there. But you mentioned also the ancestral music, and we know that calypso coming through the ranks would calypsonian would use the same melody and improvise on the lyric, and that was a kind of beginning of the calypso art form, that you would have even the Invaders Rum and Coca-Cola is an existing melody, and he wrote lyric on it. And that is when the case was settled, is because of the lyric that he wrote for Rum and Coca-Cola that they settled, and he won in his favor. But the melody was in existence for a long period, a Martinican melody and so on. So I'm saying that there, in the calypso art form, melodies were there, and people would do different things to the melody lyrically and affect it. And that's the kind of beginning. But I just want to say that from 1921, Trinidad and Railway Douglas first commercial tent to now, which is 105 years of development, we should know by now how to handle this thing we call calypso. There is an organic kind of development that has taken place that we cannot, after 105 years, be still twiddling and fooling around, not understanding where we go in kind of thing. So I just want to leave that.
Right. Let me just ask this. So prior to this new score sheet, where you had the five, the lyrics, melody, originality, rendition, presentation, you got, and I think we use the same ones in Grenada Scholar as what they used before, because it's sort of standard. That previous score sheet to me seems to be more detailed in what the adjudicator can identify in allocating marks. With this one, it's not so detailed, so I'm wondering if that could be one of the reasons why you have that kind of disparity in some of the categories. Dr. Brown?
Yes, you are right. And as I mentioned before, having definitions of criteria is important to make sure that everyone understands what each of the musical elements mean. So what we are seeing in this particular score sheet here is a scant kind of explanation or description, so to speak. And you're right, it can go deeper. When I also look at it, I am also seeing, in my opinion, inaccuracies. For example, let's look at the concept of melody. The definition given here is ability of tune to connect with the audience. When you speak about connect with the audience, if you write a song, you have a melody, you have a tune. But it stays either on your computer, on your phone, in your head. There is no audience for you to connect with. So therefore, I don't think that this belongs here in terms of melody. It only connects with the audience when it is performed, right? So I am disagreeing with that part of the definition of melody. You can have vocal melodic line and fit of tune. It doesn't even have to be vocal. When you write a melody, that can be produced by any kind of voice, whether it's an instrument or a human voice, etc. Again, only when the performer sings it, it becomes vocal. So for example, Val can write a song, have a melodic line, and it is still a melody, but it's not sung, if you catch my drift. Right? So I disagree with that definition of melody. We should be looking at the combination of pitches and rhythm there that creates the tune. And if we look at the melodic contour, we have to determine whether the melody is static, where it is within close, narrow range, and therefore can be kind of boring. And if it's repetitive all the time, you keep hearing the same 4 lines or 4 phrases repeatedly, then that can be a boring melody. But if it is varied, wide range, and the contour is undulating, then that becomes a more interesting melody. So things like that we have to look at. In terms of lyrics as well, as I mentioned before, let's see what they have here for lyrics. Depth of idea, development of and support of lyrics to main idea. Vocabulary, narrative, structure, and coherence of song. So again, as you rightly said, this is very vague. It needs to be a little more descriptive. What is it about vocabulary? What is it about narrative? It has to speak to using the literary devices that makes it interesting, that makes Calypso what Calypso is. And again, Scholar spoke about ancestor and ancestral music. And before I would have mentioned where this came from, yes, from slavery days and emancipation, this was carried on, and we had the role of the griot who carried the message in the lyrics. We had the role of the chantwells, where Calypso also began. And therefore, for them, for the slave masters and for the white plantation owners not to understand what they were saying and singing, it was hidden in the language. The message was hidden in the language, so they became colorful, it became interesting. So I think that is one of the things that I think is missing here in terms of lyrics. Originality, words and thought created by the author and not outright copy of existing work. Well, I think that goes for everything. As long as you're not copying somebody's work, it's a new, innovative work, it's original. So I agree with you that these definitions and descriptors of the criteria need to be a little more explicit and deeper.
Mm-hmm. Scholar?
No, well, I agree with that as well. The truth is that, Godfrey, as I told you, I did not take time to study the school sheet. I will be very, very honest with you. So, like Dr. Brown is saying, I don't know what the breakdown and so on is. But my challenge with all of this is that I would be surprised if this was changed somehow and the judges were not rigorously trained, in terms of, because I can see if they have these little things, probably it can't stay on the paper. A lot can stay, so they pull out something, a few things, and put it on the paper, on that spreadsheet there. Fine. But there has to be some, because I refuse to believe that melody and lyric and everything is what this little vague stuff that you have been reading out that they are judging. I mean it would be incredible, and the way that they so there's no melody anymore. There's music.
There's music, yeah.
There's music and so on. And I would expect that some rigorous training would have taken place, right? So judges would kind of be au fait. But even taking what Dr. Brown has just been speaking about in terms of melody and what have you, then even the whole thing of connect with audience, and I agree with her, because a melody doesn't have to be sung. And I usually fight to tell people that in workshops and so on in grade all the time, and they reject it. But a pan could play your melody, a guitar could play, it's the same thing, it's a melody. All right, that's what it is. When the voice sings it, then the voice kind of orchestrates it, but it's the same thing, it's the same melody. And I keep telling them all the time that you sing your melody, Sailing the Hand sing the melody, it's the same melody. It's the same melody that they're singing, all right? And when you have this thing about connect, it jumped out at me, connect with the audience, something that connects with the audience. Then how come Chucky get 53, and that making no sense. Yeah, anybody that connect with Melody that connect with that dance more than Chucky. So
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm still bewildered, honestly.
I'm
bewildered. The only thing I can say, Godfrey, and I'll say this, right, that I very much hope, because Trinidad has been for years a standard bearer when it comes to calypso, right, and innovations and so on. And I'm very happy that with all the innovations that Trinidad has done in calypso, nobody doesn't follow them. Nobody does. The maker of calypso, but we don't follow them. So, because somehow we have realized the futility of doing it. So there are times Trinidad don't even really know. 2 songs, 1 song, 2 songs. They move it all over the place. Throw the goalposts all over the place. We've not followed. Although there had been strong voices for the 1 song thing in Grenada, but we've not followed it. All right, Dominica have not followed it. And so they have plenty territories that, and this is the next one that I'm really hoping that somebody and bold enough to say, let's follow this change of criteria. Leave the thing so, it has not been broken, we'll work with it.
One of the things I was wondering though, with this change, right? If you have, let's say for example, a new cadre of judges, and they're given this, that is going to be a major problem. I mean, if you have seasoned judges who probably been around and they understand what is involved, they may be able to make a little more sense of that. But if you have new people, what are they? How? I mean, to me, that is a problem.
Well, sorry,
but it mightn't be a problem. Maybe the new people might because if you have not known anything else, then probably you might be more favored. When you are already steeped in one thing, it's sometimes harder to change in midstream and to adapt. So you may never know.
I want to reiterate what I said earlier on. I think that because Scholar mentioned it and Dr. Brown mentioned it, calypso art form, like so many art forms in the Caribbean, come from the ground, right? So that in that movement from the ground to now, right? And if we mark it as 1921 commercial tent in Trinidad and Tobago, and it was before that, but I'm going to start at 1921 to now. You have a very long period of development and understanding and organic movement. Though that history has to be important to where we are now and where we are going. And you just don't discard things willy-nilly and just do what you want to do. You know, you have to be connected to that. And nothing that now, that's why, probably in Trinidad, we had a really interesting phase in terms of calypso and the calypso fraternity. What are they going to do? How are they going to navigate the political changes that are about? And what is happening artistically? You know, I think that is what we need to speak to. But what you have is that you have a long history of a particular organic development that you just cannot discard yourself. You know, and I think that is important. So I wanna put that out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Val, I would like to add that you also have many persons who have the experience and who have the knowledge.
Yeah,
you have people like Chalk does, you have Luther, you even have the academics like myself, if I may say so myself, who are involved in it and who knows. So consultation is also important. If you want to change something, let us consult with the persons who know, who are in the belly of the thing, who have the experience. And it's always good to bring the creatives and the academics together so you can get a wider perspective. Yeah. But I also want to share, based on the discussion, that training is important. And Val, you would recall for Soca Monarch, That was one of the things that I was very strict about. So I would also look, when I was assigned to be the chief adjudicator for the International Soca Monarch, one of the things I requested was a CV from each of the persons offering themselves to be an adjudicator. I want to see what your background is. I want to see what you're bringing to the table, so to speak. And even though each one of them may have had some kind of training, not only in music, because this has a performance element. So you had persons involved in theater, we had persons involved in music, persons involved in DJing and all those things. But
visual arts, all of those things.
Visual arts, all of that, because it's a theatrical production on stage. So what we did, everyone came with their own knowledge and background to level the playing field, at least to attempt to do that. We had training sessions. So every judge was trained in the understanding of each of the elements, and that training was very intense. So I think that is important. I don't know what happened here in terms of the Calypso Monarch, but we are hearing over and over that training for judges is one thing. So we are looking at the score sheets, which definitely needs improving. We are looking at the weighting of the marks as well, which can topple, one of the artists' scores one way or the other. We are looking at definitions of criteria. What do those terms mean? And the deeper elements of it, deeper explanation, wider, broader explanations. And we are also looking at the training and experience of those adjudicators.
Right, excellent. I want to look at presentation, which carries 25 points overall, and in particular articulation, which speaks to clarity of diction, creativity in treatment of theme, voice quality, innovativeness, and tonal performance. And that carries 5 points. I have some issues there. I don't get it, because clarity of diction, to me, it's something that can severely impact your lyrics. So I don't understand why, it falls under presentation. I mean, I guess it can, but carry only 5 points.
5 marks, yes. And that's an important point, because if you are not clear, no one can understand what you're saying.